So what is blocking your mind? Why are you not getting to your full potential? Why are you not getting your dreams and aspirations achieved easily? We're all struggling with that. We need to understand this in the inside of our minds. We've got to understand what blocks us. We have to understand our hardwires.
In this episode, we will look at an overview of the 16 hardwires of the mind.
So what is a hardwire? A hardwire is a pattern of thinking and reasoning that has developed since you were born, when you had moments where you felt, I'm not safe and I'm not okay. Then you've developed a compensatory type of defense mechanism, coping skill pattern in your brain that becomes a pattern from a previous experience to protect you from yourself so that you don't get further hurt. But it is an adaptive pattern that is not really a healthy pattern, but it works for you when you are still small. That is what hardwires are.
These 16 hardwires are divided into 3 different categories. The first category consists of the primary hardwires, which can be seen as the cause of the secondary and tertiary hardwires. Primary hardwires are labeled as either nature or nurture, with nature hardwires being passed down through your DNA. These include hardwires such as Zizo, mental matters, and addiction. Nurture hardwires consist of unconducive parenting and abuse. The effects of the secondary hardwires are a result of the primary hardwires. The hardwires that fall into this category are locus of control, limiting beliefs, bad attitude, victim mentality, low resources, vengefulness, wolf in sheep's clothing, narcissism, and ecosystems. Secondary hardwires can lead to tertiary hardwires. Tertiary hardwires include heartlessness, old-mindedness, and addiction, which can lead to the regression of the self.
The primary hardwires consist of nature versus nurture. So we're first looking at the nature hardwires, the genes, the DNA that you inherited, the sins of the parents that is now in your DNA. You can inherit a lot of things from your parents, especially the fear, the primitive brain related behavioral patterns. So you can inherit gifts and talents, but the hardwires are things like sexual perversion, anxiety disorders, addictions, mental matters. So those things are hardwires that you can inherit. So you can inherit mental matters, obsessive compulsive disorders, and addictions. And then you can also inherit the brain profile. So we call that the Z and the ZO. So your one parent could be more Z, more two-dimensional, and then you inherit that Z dominant brain, and then you just think like that. It's a default pattern. That is a primary hardwire. That is nature. Then you can have nurture hardwires on primary level. So what is nurture? Parenting. The parenting practices. So nurture is unconducive parenting, is the biggest culprit that is on the nurture phase on the primary hardwire level. Secondly, abuse, the ABU, the abuse hardwire. So if you have been treated in an unfriendly way, verbal abuse, we scream at our children, no, don't. Those things are eventually becoming verbal abusive, that the child takes to himself and feel, I'm not safe, I'm not okay. You break down that self-esteem of the child by abusing the child verbally, emotionally, digitally nowadays, sexually and physically. Any form of abuse has got the highest destructive hardwire formation in a human being. Now, secondary hardwires. Secondary hardwires are the hardwires that you have now as part of your personality. You might think that a lot of those behavioral patterns are your personality. Very likely it's not. very likely it's your hardwires. So let's look at the secondary hardwires. Firstly, locus of control. You either internally locused, you believe I can do it, give it to me, let me try, let me do it, or you have developed an external locus of control. I can't, somebody else must switch on their brain and think on my behalf. It's what we call the chicken mind versus the eagle mind. The eagle mind says, I can catch my own food, I can do my own thing, I'm not a job seeker, I'm a job creator. That is internal locus. So the hardwire is called LOC, locus of control. The second one is limiting beliefs. Your first 7 years of your life is the most critical hardwire formation years that is going to either also give you limiting beliefs or enabling beliefs. Instill fear in you, and the fear will create certain type of hardwire patterns. So the next hardwire is BAT. It stands for bad attitude. The bad attitude hardwire is driven by anxiety. So people with high anxiety are likely to have these manifestations and these coping mechanisms, like being stubborn, being passive aggressive, being negative, being aggressive or criticizing, or being rebellious. It's your biggest part of that hardwire is rebellious, going against everything that people tell you to do and just batting back the challenges that you get in life. Bad attitude. The next one is VIC. It's the victim hardwire pattern. Now the VIC hardwire is coming from unconducive parenting primarily and abuse. Abuse causes that real victim. So the VIC has got two sides to it. The one is the external victim. You are in a situation, in an ecosystem, and you get victimized. And that is true. So you are really the victim of some perpetrator that's in that environment. The other side of the victim goes IVIC, internal victim. So the IVIC is where you internally victimizing yourself. You take over the role as the perpetrator that victimizes yourself in the inside. You chastise yourself. You tell yourself the whole time, I'm not good enough, I've got to be better, I've got to do this, I've got to do more, I've got to do more. And you then become that perpetrator that victimizes yourself. Next hardwire is LOR. LOR stands for low resources. It's all about the perception, the belief that you do not have money, you do not have resources, you do not have things, and you feel the whole time you are handling these things wrong. So you can't keep it. When the next thing you find is you've lost it, or you're holding on to it and you're so stingy. So it could be a limiting belief to both sides of giving it out and never having it, or holding it and accumulating it and never thinking you've got enough of it. So you could have the belief system saying money is the root of all evil, and you've got a belief, a limiting belief around that. Or you can always feel that I never have enough money, I never have enough things, and you might have heaps and heaps of those things, but you still believe, and you're having a behavior that is a hardwired behavioral pattern around money and resources. The next hardwire is called venge. Venge is a feeling of I've got a vengefulness, a grudge, unforgiveness against somebody that did me harm. Of course, if you've been abused and you've been a little child and you've been sexually abused by some family member, of course you're going to carry a grudge and a vengefulness. But a vengeful hardwire will give you cancer in your own mind. You've got to renew that mind. You've got to get to from unforgiveness to forgiveness, and you've got to get rid of that hardwire. It is going to just be like a dead rabbit in a plastic bag, and everybody sees your personality is not right, and it's almost like stinking, but you're holding onto that dead rabbit. You don't want to let go. The next hardwire is wolf in sheep's clothing. It's another word for covert narcissism. The person's ego is damaged as a child, but now the person has to be nice and pretend everything is okay. And learning how to be a great pretender, or being a hypocrite, or being a false self. But usually they come over crafty and cunning and nice, very nice. Lots of people in the healthcare and the wealthy sectors, they develop that hardwire, which is not good, because you never learn to stand for the real truth and to deal with the truth. You will rather pretend and be nice, and then behind you're actually not nice. Wolf in sheep's clothing hardwire. The next one is called narcissism. Narcissism is overt narcissism. It's in your face. It is a person who likes to bully or likes to be full of themselves and show me, myself and I, and it's all about me, and you've got to give me more attention here in the restaurant, and I have everything, I have the power. I want to love bomb you with money and with things and manipulate you so that I can get you, so that you actually becoming my slave for me, so that I can eventually discredit and devalue you. That is narcissism. Then the next one is called ecosystems. Ecosystems would be the environment that you are in. So the more victim you are, the more you're going to look for Vic clicks, and you're going to find ecosystems where you find them, and you're going to dwell in your pity like a dog that goes back to its vomit. You're going to find places where people are like you, and where you can then actually be disempowered more, because the victim was perpetrated. So you're going to find that perpetrator again that's going to victimize you in the ecosystem. So the ecosystem is either ecosystem for chance or ecosystem for change. And that is a hardwire if you are in ecosystems for chance. Tertiary hardwires. Tertiary hardwires are the regression from secondary hardwires. So vengefulness could regress into heartlessness, and the person can become a sociopath or a psychopath. Anxieties and mental matters can regress into a full state of old-mindedness. And old-minded, OLM hardwire, is when your body is so full of adrenaline and full of cortisol because of the anxieties and the fears and the anxieties that you've been having from a child age, and now your adrenal glands are giving in. You develop autoimmune diseases, muscular diseases, all sorts of pains and aches, and eventually you find yourself lying in the back room of somebody's house and you just cannot lift your arms anymore, or you really become so sick and you develop all these other diseases like diabetes and heart attacks and strokes, and because of what happened to you and what you did, the addictions and the things, the behaviors, the hardwired behaviors that you were playing out in your secondary level. Then also addiction is a tertiary hardwire, ADD. So an addiction could be any form of addiction where you say, I must, I can't live without it, I have to have it. An addiction is a tertiary hardwire. It is really holding you in slavery. You're a slave of that addiction. So it doesn't matter who in your life, your spouse, your loved ones, your addiction is more important. Your work is not as important as your addiction. You've got to run out and go smoke all the time. You can never get to your greatness with your addictions, whether it's sexual perversion, sugar addictions, eating, binging, need for something. I have to. Alcohol, drugs, pills, and then it can go even more regressive, like a need for hurting people and things like that. So once you are there, you are regressing, and you are never going to get to your greatness, because you are a slave of your addictions, and all your loved ones and your work and everything around you is secondary to this addiction that you have to feed. and something else has control over your life. So you can go do your Hardwires online, www.hardwires.co.za. Now, when you fill in that questionnaire, it could take you up to 3 hours. So take your time and be very honest, because it's just between you and the computer. When you get your results, you will get a graph and you'll see there's green, yellow and red. So when your Hardwire shows in green, it's an indication that, hey, your Hardwire is emerging. You must take note and you must find out what's this Hardwire. It is growing in your brain. When it's yellow, you must know that your Hardwire is going to take you up to 24 months of hard work, intensive conscious change, rewiring work to change that Hardwire. And you need a buddy system. You need a provocateur to help you with that. A provocateur that understands Hardwires, that understands how to rewire you back into optimum human state. If your Hardwire is red, you have a big problem. You have a chronic Hardwire sitting there, wiring in your brain that is formed, that is now a default chronic pattern of behavior, and you start thinking it's your personality. But the red Hardwire is really what's going to hold you back from getting to your optimum self. So the red Hardwire, first and foremost, we would say, get out of your ecosystem. Go have a look at your ecosystem. You would find that that ecosystem that you dwell in is not good for you. It's exacerbating and improving those Hardwires that you already have. You've got to get into an ecosystem for change. You've got to then, secondly, get a provocateur that's going to help you. Nobody changes by themselves. We all know that. Humans just fall back in their comfort zone and substantiate why it's right for things to be wrong in their lives. And then they show personality tests to show, oh, but this is my personality. No, you are stuck. You are in a stronghold. You are in bondages because of your Hardwires. And you can change. You can renew your mind. So now once you have your Hardwire report in front of you, it will prompt you to then phone a coach. So there's online coaches that's included in the price that you can talk to, that can help you interpret your Hardwires in a much more detailed way, where you can reflect your own life and yourself and see how the Hardwires are connected with each other. And that coach will take you through a 40-minute process of helping you to crack you into consciousness, to start knowing, oh, but this is the reason why I'm stuck. I thought it's my culture. I thought it's my age. I thought it's this or that or the other. No, it's your Hardwires. And the sooner you find that out and you start understanding how to rewire, revolutionize yourself, and you can appoint a coach, you can appoint a provocateur. It's all online available to take you to the journey of change, that you can be free, that you do not have strongholds. It does not matter what age, you can change and you can take ownership over those things that bind you and hold you. And you can understand how to be a mechanic of your own mind and change it forever and be free and start experiencing the life there where you are free and where you are liberated from slavery of your own mind.
Hardwires are present in every one of us. It's important to discover if your Hardwires are in the green, yellow or red area using a Hardwire assessment tool before you start your journey to become the optimum you. In the next episode, we will delve deeper into primary Hardwires.